9 o'clock. In a Ellie Alessio, Glenn Koppelman, Lori Sved, also with the town clerk is up here, Tammy Bakey, town Huddy, and then we have our finance director, Paula Mahoney, due to some medical conditions, so he apologizes for not being able to attend in person.
And is the Budget Committee calling their meeting to order?
Yes, we are. So at 9 a.m., the Budget Committee calls our meeting to order. I am Chairman Trish Tidd, and alongside me, I have Secretary Stacy Dion, Vice Chair Rick Russman, Kim Donahue, Anne Marie Roth, Gary Finnerty, Claudine Diaz, John Pramberg, and Nick Hilfer, as well as our Recording Secretary, Cynthia Mulcahy. Thank you.
So the deliberative session is officially called to order, and I'd like to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I was going to introduce everybody, but we've already handled that. We have the select board is all set. Sorry, I have given the person in the booth permission to remind everyone, including myself, to make sure that I have the mics on. Okay, so Article 1 is planning and zoning articles that have already had their public hearings. We're going to begin deliberations on Article 27, which is the operating budget. As a reminder, the purpose for this session is for explanation, discussion, debate, and there can be amendments with certain limitations on the articles. Again, for the people at home, and also for people here, because without the mic, sometimes you can't hear anyone, it's important to come to the microphone if you want to speak to an article, ask a question, and clearly state your name and address for the record, because Tammy Bakey, our town clerk, needs that information. If anyone forgets to use the mic, you will be reminded to use the microphone when you're speaking. Now, due to a procedural issue, the budget going forward on the warrant is the Select Board's recommendation instead of the Budget Committee's. Therefore, the Chair of the Select Board, Chris Bashaw, will be presenting the budget this year. And Chris Bashaw.
Okay. Sure, I guess. Good morning. Here. So yes, we do have a procedural issue that occurred under RSA 32.5. There are some nuances that kind of happened with this. So officially, we had to put out a notice stating that the Budget Committee has failed to prepare a budget, or they failed to recommend a budget. So by state statute, they did not, this is actually not their proposed budget. I will say that I don't think there was any intention of the Budget Committee to fail to put a budget forward, just some nuances of some votes that occurred where there were some questions and they didn't have a final recommendation to move it forward. Not a recommendation to move forward, but they didn't recommend it, and that actually conflicted with the state law, so officially they had not proposed a budget. So it falls back upon the Select Board. And I can say, you know, the Budget Committee had been meeting since November with the department heads and committee chairs, reviewing all of this. The Budget Committee voted on decision day number 1 of their meetings to move forward with a budget of $9,590,001.12. On that decision day number 1, the vote 5-3 was to approve that budget moving forward, which is the same budget we're seeing before us today. The Budget Committee on decision day 2, the motion to recommend did fail. The vote was 2-4 on Article 27. So since that occurred, it's considered a failure to recommend a budget under RSA 32.5, Roman numeral 6. So the Select Board, and I will say that to understand things, that the I believe the select board and the budget committee, we were pretty much 99% of agreement with the budget of where it was. That's not to say anyone was really happy with the substantial increases that occurred, with a lot of those things being out of all of our control. I think there were a couple little nuances that folks still had some questions on and did not feel comfortable with, and that's why the failure to recommend occurred. But I will say, so there are no changes to the last budget that was approved to move forward by the budget committee and then subsequently not recommended by the budget committee, but there are no changes to that budget that you're seeing here before you today that we're discussing. So I just wanted to make sure people understood, because there was a notice that we had to put out legally and pursuant to the RSAs. Now, we will say, some significant increases that have occurred during this budget cycle. We have approximately $650,000 increase due to the insurance and retirement. And let me just give you the overall numbers. The 2023 budget was $7,996,372. The is $9,590,001.12. So this a very significant increase of 19.93%. That increased to $593,629.12. And then alternatively, the default budget that was prepared comes out to $9,679,394.34. So the default budget, as it sits, is $89,393.22 budget. So this that we talked about, approximately $750,000 is due to an insurance and retirement cost increases. There were some questions on social media and that came into the office about, why didn't the town health insurance? And we recognized when those rates came in that, that was definitely a failure of the town. Apparently the town has not gone out to bid for health insurance since 2004. Which is completely inappropriate, and we've already put measures in place with the human resources and the finance, and also the finance director, that we should be mandating that we go out to bid at least every 2 years. So there already are plans in place to start working with either insurance brokers or going out to creating RFPs to go out to bid for health insurance moving forward. So we hope there'll be some opportunities, the levels and tiers of plans that are available. And we've come up with some ideas that would allow a little more flexibility and maybe offer some cost-saving options in the future, but that's not going to help us for this budget, unfortunately. Some additional things to note with retirement costs. Those are set by the state of New Hampshire. I know there was actually a slight decrease. Things you need to understand is the state of New Hampshire stopped contributing to the retirement in except for a couple of one-time 2023 of 7.5%. When we talk about the insurance costs, that includes increases to dental, health, workman's comp, disability. So that $750,000 increases we're seeing from the increases in those rates as well. We had to appropriate an additional $288,000 in this budget for PFAS remediation. We do have a grant that is going to be 100% reimbursable that we qualify for this grant. This is to address the point of entry water systems in the homes that have the firefighting foam incident that was pushed down federally and through the states onto the communities. So we have a duty to provide clean drinking water for those folks, but we have to appropriate that money even though we're eligible to get 100% grant funding back, and there's no guarantee which budget cycle will get that. So we may not get that grant funding completed and returned during this budget cycle. It could actually happen in 2025. So that is a one-time appropriation that we have in the budget, but please understand there will be in the budget the following year, there are going to be maintenance costs that are going to have to be budgeted to continue treatment and upkeep of those well systems. So, but this particular item cost for this purpose of the installation is a one-time cost that has to be appropriated. Also, $598.63 for highway block grants. These are again reimbursable through grant funding, but we have to appropriate these monies to spend it. The highway department has been very successful in using some of these funds to limit the increases we've had to have for some of the projects and infrastructure repair that's happened in the community. As far as overall increases, there are some increases to the three major departments, for higher numbers. The fire department, we have an approximately 12.58% increase. This includes money to increase wages to bring into line with local communities. The police department has approximately Public Works is about 4.53. Now, I know there's been a lot of discussion too about increases in salaries and things that have happened in the community. There is a little bit of confusion out there regarding cost. I've heard that pay for performance was being replaced with cost of living adjustments, but for the past 3 years, employees have and pay for performance. So last year's budget committee, during that budget season right at the end, they had conveyed to the implemented, and they would rather see we had advocated appropriate pay. And we had to about that. We could either hire a private company, which generally costs anywhere from, depending on the scope of the activity, and at that time there was not an appetite from the budget committee to place that in the budget to have a private company doing it. At the time, myself, another to be a part of working with individuals in town to do a internal pay matrix and a wage salary study so that we could come. We opened that up. It was a working group, and it was going to be composed of 2 select board members, 2 budget committee members, 2 finance director, and we opened it up to 2. Put out a public posting for volunteers. 1 individual from the public that volunteered to sign up for that, and unfortunately, due to being able to attend the meeting before resigning from the committee. Did a lot of work engaging, looking at pay and positions from different departments, as well as some other town hall group. So there were some recommendations to bring some of the communities up. The fire department was very low in the percentile and resulting in lack of recruitment and retention on their part. The implemented some raises over the finally got them to the point where they were actually retaining, and we were actually recently able to hire but those are some of the major increases that we're seeing in the budget.
Apologies, your esteemed colleague contacted me. That microphone's cutting out.
Oh.
Take that.
Okay.
Sorry.
New microphone. So again, I just wanted to make some items that came up during the decision days. It's just important to know that the budget committee has been meeting. We're at the budget you see before us really still is the collaboration of the budget committee and the select board and any public input that happened during those decision days. The budget committee, had been meeting with the different department heads since November, and those are all public, open, available hearings for people to attend and participate in. And just so people understand, I just want to make sure those appropriation items that we have, such as the highway block grants and the PFAS, the official definition of appropriate means it's to set apart from the public revenue of a municipality a certain sum for a specified purpose and to authorize the expenditure of that sum for that purpose. So an appropriation is an amount of money appropriated for a specified purpose by the legislative body. So we unfortunately do have to raise and appropriate those monies even though we are eligible for that. I believe that's really all I have. During the decision days with the budget committee hearings, we went through everything. We went through everything line by line. If there are any questions, I know there's some people here concerned about some particular items today, but I hope this kind of gives everyone a little bit of an overview. I know these have been available online to look through. So I'll turn it back over to the moderator, and she can tell us how we're going to proceed moving forward for questions, answers, amendments, or any changes.
I start because I wanted to give a already aware that we have somebody who's going to ask to make an amendment to that. So after I read this, I'll ask Chief Johnson to come up to the microphone so he can make his amendment. Away? Nope. Can everyone hear me now? Is it going clearer? Okay. Back to the number, $9,590,001. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $9,679,395, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town of Kingston or by law. Or the governing body may hold one in 13 Roman numeral X and Roman numeral 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Majority vote required. Estimated tax impact $4.75 per thousand. Excuse me. Estimated tax impact of default budget is $4.81 per. The select board 5-0. Not recommended by the budget committee 4-2. Chief Johnson has an amendment that he'd like to put forward.
Budget.
Can't hear you at all.
What's that? Can you hear me now?
How about that, Adam?
Is that better?
Yep.
Okay, I move to amend the budget by adding the sum of $6,500 to the police budget for active shooter training salaries. As the proposed budget would increase $9,596. I'm sorry, $9,596,501.12.
Do I have a second by anybody? We have a lot of people. Would you like to speak to that amendment?
Yeah. So far this year, I've had 4 threats in the school in 2024. Okay, I think this is important for all my officers to know how to go and react to an active shooter. Active shooter is not just at the high schools or the middle schools, Bakey, it's Town Hall, it's the post office, it's Benson's, it can happen anywhere. We had an active shooter last year in May where an individual got into domestic and shot 18 rounds down at the draft house at 2 individuals. Okay, luckily it wasn't a great shot. But besides that, he's now currently incarcerated for that. We were able to talk him, negotiate him out of his residence, and he surrendered peacefully. We got lucky. Okay, we're not always going to be lucky. I want this training. I'd really appreciate it if the townspeople would step up and make this happen.
While I appreciate the sentiment, I am going to ask if people not necessarily do applause and things like that. It's just going to make the hearing go a lot longer. Do we have further comment? Chief Briggs.
Good morning, everyone. I'm certain that you've watched TV and Uvalde and all of that those people weren't trained. And had they had the training that Chief Johnson wants to give, they probably wouldn't be getting sued like they are. So I would ask that you move this forward because we've always had that training, and I would want that to continue for the schools and for the community. Make it safer. Thank you.
Further comment?
Speaking of microphone, and your name.
And your name and
My name is Don Jean, and I'd like to reiterate what the chief and previous chief has said, because as a resident of this town, I look around and I see the number of places that have mass gatherings, not just town hall, but the businesses. And if there is an active shooter, I would prefer that our responding officers be trained in this so there are no issues, as Chief Briggs said. And I think it's a matter of public safety, and I think it should be put back into the budget, and it should be included every year going forward.
My name is Mary Sear. I don't think there's
I
any...
need your address too, sorry.
I didn't hear that address.
I thought he did. I'm sorry.
I'm from Pillsbury Pasture Road in the south part of town. I don't think there's anybody here who wouldn't support this training. I do support it. The fact that it was in the budget and was removed by the Budget Committee doesn't mean that the funds are not available for that, okay? I want people to understand our budgets have a surplus of between 3 to 5%, 3 to 5% of $9.5 million. So keep that in mind. And once these amounts are approved by the voters in March, the select board can spend that money as they deem appropriate. So in my opinion, there's no reason to increase this budget. The funds are available. It's up to the next seated select board to designate those funds and approve those funding requests. Thank you.
Barbara Ryan, Mill Road. Fine.
I hate to interrupt you, but the town clerk did not get your name and address.
Mill Road. Do you know? We to the voters that they think they have voted. Thank you.
First, not the budget committees.
Okay.
Kyle Bache, 101 Main Street. I don't think that the cost of the seminars for active shooters should come out of the detail fund, because the detail fund acts as a savings account for emergency items. I work in retail banking, and I've seen how detrimental it is to exhaust a savings account for purposes that the account is not intended for. Making an unnecessary withdrawal sets a precedent to enable future withdrawals that will eventually exhaust the account to the point the police department will not be able to replace a cruiser when needed. Now imagine that, having the police be called and they cannot reach you.
Good morning. My name is Caitlin Bache. I live at 101 Main Street. I work at the Bakey School, and I see Chief Johnson and his officers almost every day, and I appreciate that their cruises are outside of our schools protecting the children of our town, because honestly, it could happen anywhere. And the cover of NEA Today, which if you guys do not know, NEA Today is a magazine for educators. You would be filled with lesson plans and pointers and tips for classroom management. But this issue, January of 2024, NEA Today, this can change. Educators take on gun violence. Unfortunately, this is the reality that we live in, and I don't want to see this on the magazine covers for educators. I don't want to have to be dealing with gun violence in my schools or my community. It makes me feel students are protected every day by Chief Johnson's employees and the officers that he has. They are great people. I know all of them on a very personal level, and the fact that they could handle a active shooter situation makes me feel that much safer working in my school, because I myself, as an educator, it's pretty frowned upon if I were to bring in a gun. So I cannot protect myself. So I entrust a lot to Chief Johnson and his officers. So I would very much like your support in approving the amendment for Chief Johnson. Thank you.
I'll make it short. I'm never short, you know that. Well, folks, I got some news to tell you. Back many years ago, Chief Johnson and I stopped 2 school shootings here. One individual had sawed off a shotgun, was making fertilizer bombs, had a hit list, and we were able to catch him. And not only did this person, because it was a juvenile, get punished for it, but the individual, we rehabilitated him. He went into the United States, one of the either Army or Navy or whatever, and had children, went off in life and did well. So we had 2 of those. One of the individuals was going to bring his brother's shotgun to school, had a hit list, and going to kill a bunch of people. So it can happen here. It almost happened twice while I was here. And so, and you know what society is today. You see it on TV every day. So I would ask that you give him the money that he needs, as little as it is, to train these people so we don't have an incident here in Kingston. Thank you.
I see you back there.
Do we? Sorry, I did it again.
Madam,
Would you like to ask that question? It is what it is.
Madam Moderator, I think I have enough.
Do you want to do it?
Yeah, so and I will say I fully agree that I believe this should be in the budget, specifically under the training, and not just for the sake of the fact that the will and can potentially save lives. Heaven forbid something should happen, no matter what the result. The town is going to be scrutinized in every action that they took, documented. Should, for the aftermath of anything that happens. I will requested it be funded from other places, and I don't know if they fully understood the locations they were looking at for. The money appropriate the officers to attend and legally cannot be used for salaries and overtime. They can be used to as a salary line item, as well as there was mention of using the drug asset forfeiture account, which federally being used for salary and overtime.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm speaking as myself, resident Trish Tidd from Mill Road, rather than representing the budget. Now I'm green. I was green before. Okay. So representing myself, Trish Tidd from Mill Road. When Chief Johnson came to the board and brought this as a separate item from his normal budget, it was 1 week after the Lewiston shootings. I will tell you, it was a very emotional meeting that we had. And it ended up being a fight or a discussion about exactly where that money was coming from. I know for myself, I feel very strongly that the money needs to be there, the training needs to be there. The last thing we want is for $6,500 to mean the life of a child. And we cannot let that happen as a town. So that's just my opinion.
It sounded like maybe it was unanimously voted down, but that
the chief. It was early in the budget. In a more now the overall budget has increased. Condescend and tell you what taxes have done in town. They've gone up dramatically, all for good reasons. And I voted for all of those budgets until his original request. The about this in the vote, a budget that had already been submitted. Now, my concern at that time was what signal is the budget committee sending if after a submitted, we're going to begin increasing. Let's period. Without increase. I'm likely to vote to restore this because I think that it wasn't really even the shooter training. That's a very compelling public need. What it was about and what it is about expenditures, which I thought would completely undermine the budget process. So I just...
Are there any further comments on the amendment? If not, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said something. If not, $101. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Stop. Okay, so now, any other comments or questions? Okay, if not, any comments? Everyone understand what that means? I'm seeing a lot of heads nodding. Does anyone not understand what that means? I'm not getting anything. Okay. Oh, we have a hand. A motion to restrict means that you can't go back to this during this meeting. It just means that this is the end of the discussion, and at the end of the hearing, nobody can open a different vote, basically. Anything? Okay. All in favor of restricting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Opposed. Okay. That passes. We'll move on to see if it's not taken by the taxpayer on or can I have a motion to move this to the ballot? What? Call the question. Okay. I haven't even had a second yet. let me have a motion to move it forward in a second, please. Motion in a second. Second? Second. Good. Okay, we have a motion to move the question. It's non-debatable. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Article 20, Kingston will vote to raise and approve majority vote required. Estimated tax impact is 5 cent 0. Can I have a motion to move this forward? Second? Thank you. Do we have any discussion or comment or explanation? Mr. Coombs.
Try it like you did. Morning, everybody. This has been an ongoing warrant article to fund the Highway Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. So what this does is sets a pool of money aside so as equipment is needed to be replaced, we don't have to have a separate warrant article each year to do that. It's just an ongoing assumed tax burden that people can plan on each year and takes kind of the guesswork out of equipment maintenance and replacement. Right now, a truck costs, the last one I heard, it was about 8 months ago, was $240,000, fully decked out to be a plow truck. That's not just the plow trucks. We also have a backhoe, a loader, numerous other pieces of equipment. The loader is a 2008. All of these pieces of equipment live in salt 6 months out of the year. And if you've been in New England more than a minute, you know that isn't great for the long-term life of your equipment. The original ask was $100,000 and the select board saw fit to put it down to $75,000. We understand this is not a great year to ask for this, but the longer this is delayed or put off, that just makes the burden that much greater down the line. This is just long-term planning, equipment wears out, and this is how we handle it in this town. And I would appreciate your support on this moving forward. Thank you.
Any questions or further discussion? Mr. Cole.
I would also support the Director of Public Works comments on this. Capital reserve funds have been supported in this town for years. It has been the way we've paid for replacement equipment. It's further supported by the capital improvements program that the Planning Board puts forward, and it's a way of trying to even out the peaks and valleys. And I'll own up to the fact that I was the one that made the motion to reduce the amount down to 75, and it pained me to do that because that can have, just that can have impact. And I would hope that in future years, when budgets are perhaps a little bit more favorable, we'd be able to bring that number back up. So, thank you.
Hi. Barbara Ryan, Mill Road. Chris, for clarification from either the road agent or yourself, are you saying that if you vote and support this, you're supporting it for every year, or will it come forward every year? And then, I don't know if I misunderstood him or not, but are you giving, sorry, I get my mouth ahead of my brain here. You won't be purchasing the vehicle out of just this. It will still come as a warrant article to take that money from that so that the citizens know they still have a say. It's not like the drug forfeiture account. It's a capital reserve, but you have to put it on the ballot to take that money out to purchase the vehicle.
Every year that we put it in, we have to vote for it every year.
Okay.
It's not a perpetuity, it's not ad infinitum. Then when it comes time to spend the money to buy a vehicle, the road agent will come before us, the highway department agent, will come before us as a warrant article. So
Okay.
we, the voters, have another opportunity to approve or not approve.
Nope, because it's a, When it's time to purchase that fund, the Public Works Director can come and make a request at that time to the Select Board to withdraw from those funds. So, but they are carved out in there specifically for that. But when the time comes, the goal is that they have enough money for the full purchase cost of that truck by accumulating every year. But it is not, every year they bring this forward as this, so the townspeople have a chance to vote on adding to it every year.
That was my belief as well. However, are you saying that because it's in the capital reserve, you can authorize to purchase a vehicle without the voters know it?
Let the director.
So the way it has worked in the past is it requires a public hearing to make a withdrawal from the capital reserve, the Highway Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. The only equipment that, and this isn't written down anywhere, but the only equipment that is pulled from there is stuff that we do not have, or that we have currently. So it's to replace a truck with a truck. The only things that have been added was a chipper, I believe, in 2018. That went to the voters to authorize the addition of that to our inventory. But I just don't go out and decide that I want to buy something new. It would just be to replace a piece of equipment that we already have in the fleet. And that would require going before the Select Board, requesting that, and then I know it's at least one public hearing, if not two, for voters to weigh in and speak to the allocation of the money.
And the other different is if it's a very large piece of equipment, your truck is due and it's over $1 million. If there is not enough money in the capital reserve for the fire truck to support, you may see a warrant article that comes to the voters that says to take this X amount from the capital reserve, but in addition to that, they're requesting that they appropriate an amount of funds. So that's where you may have seen in the past where there's a warrant article that comes before for the specific piece of equipment, because if there's not enough money in the capital reserve, there has to be an allowance by the voters to appropriate the additional funds needed to complete that purchase.
So for clarification again, sorry, the selectman and the road agent you can do your public hearings, but at the end of the public hearing, you make the final decision, not the voters?
That is correct.
Thank you.
But if you don't like the decision, your elected officials, you can
I signed up, thank you.
Able to do this is because that's how when this was first established, it was established with the notation that it would allow the Board of Selectmen in the future to do it without any further action by this body. So it's not they just fool around with it. That was how it was first established. Do we have any further comments on this article? Okay, and if not, if there are no objections, we'll move this forward to the ballot as presented. Article 30, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $75,000 to be added to the fire apparatus replacement capital reserve fund previously established. Majority vote required. Estimated tax impact is 0.05 per thousand. Recommended by the Select Board 3-2. Recommended by the Budget Committee 5-2. May I have a motion? And second? Thank you. Comments? I can't. I'm not doing slides. There we go. Comment? Chief Pellerin?
So I presented to you guys a few weeks ago, so I guess it's your turn now. So as previously stated by Director Coombs, the selectmen are agents to expend his fund. The governing body, which is you guys, are agents to expend this fund for capital reserves. So if I go for a tanker or an ambulance out of this fund, then it comes to the vote and you guys get to decide. Right now, there's about $575,000 in that account. Again, as Phil stated, it's just year after year, so there's no major spike in taxes in 1 year. We're looking at replacing the tanker, which is a 2001 right now. We're looking at other options now to try to save the townspeople money. We're looking at refurbishing the one we have and just getting a new chassis with new motor, new wheels, new tires, all that good stuff, which should be about half the cost of a replacement. replacements right now are upwards of $1 million with a 3 to 4 year wait time after we order them. So just some deficiencies in manufacturing coming down the line. But I appreciate your support on this article. Thank you.
Are there any comments or questions from anybody? Nope. If not, we'll move this forward to the ballot as presented. Great. Article 31, create full-time land use administrator position. To see if the town will vote to create one full-time land use administrator position and eliminate the part-time position of planning board administrative assistant. The position would also absorb the work that had previously been performed on a part-time basis by other full-time employees, including select board administrator, town clerk, and the volunteer work of the previous zoning board chair. Further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $36,111 for salary and benefits for 9 months to be added to the $43,550 currently in the proposed operating budget. If approved, this position will become part of the operating budget in ensuing years. Majority vote required. Estimated tax impact is 3 cents per thousand. Recommended by the Select Board 5-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee 3-2 to 2. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, explanations?
So I am the planning board representative from the select board, and I have served on the planning board for almost 10 years now. I will say that this position has kind of been a long time coming. Ellen sit in this position herself, even openly admitted she probably did the position a disservice over the years by all the free time she dedicated to the work that had to be done for this position. We have a tremendous applications for surrounding communities of similar size and activity. We are really above and beyond what's happening. And I know Lynn Merrill, the chair of the planning board, did a presentation, outlining those. Why we aren't inviting certain types of tax revenue. Well, when you have a land use administrator, there's not always somebody there to answer the phone. So if you have potential come to this town and they call Kingston and nobody answers the phone and they have to wait a couple days when they're working to get a response, or are they going to go to the community that they have somebody to pick up the phone, answer their questions, or business opportunities that could come to our community? And I'm not saying all business is a good thing. Some bring different burdens with them, but there are types of opportunities that we could be missing out on to help offset our tax base and generate some revenue for the community. But this overworked, there are not enough hours for her to currently conduct all the work that is required of this. And so we're really advocating, I know the if she were here, she would be speaking to this, immensely advocate for it, and this will help as well. And I believe Peter Coffin may speak as well prior to a vote being taken. But this will be, I hope you support this. It's very much needed. It's a tremendous amount of work this individual does, and they are really the name in the face for anyone coming to town looking to build or construct anything that's going to come to this community and be a part of this community.
Okay. Further comment?
Peter Coffin, Newton Junction Road. I'm speaking as chair of the ZBA. Lynn Merrill was not able to be here. Chris made a lot of the points that Lynn had made, and to the point about the comparison to neighboring towns. Out of the 15 towns that Lynn did research on, only Epping had more applications. Kingston was ranked second. Epping, however, has not only a full-time land use administrator, but also a full-time planner. We have a very part-time planner and a part-time land use administrator, so that the office is only open actually 4 half days a week. And as Chris pointed out, that's not enough. If you're a business or somebody who wants to come in and file an application, you need to be able to walk into town hall during regular business hours and be able to talk to someone in the land use office. about filing an application, either for the planning board or for the ZBA. And a lot of people who come to the ZBA don't have any knowledge of the procedures. And one of the things Robin has done is not only has she rewritten the application form for ZBAs to give instructions to those people so they don't have to go out and hire an attorney, but she gives advice on the procedures and how to go about doing that. And that's something that in the past the zoning board chair has done, but the zoning board chair is limited in what they can give for advice, because any indication that either Ellie or I would have given to an applicant that would have indicated a preference or how they thought that the board would vote on something, we couldn't possibly say, because that would be illegal. It would be unethical. So Robin can give full advice and has done a lot of research. She's done an incredible amount of research on state laws and our town ordinances, and has done a really incredible job. She has been working about 30 hours a week, and the required amount of time is closer to, for this coming year, based on what she worked last year, is closer to 35 hours a week, which we're getting into the full-time, the state definition of full-time. So at the point of having a part-time person working essentially a full-time job but without giving them benefits may be problematic. But the biggest difference, and Chris mentioned this, is that when Ellen was doing the job, she was only doing it for planning board, and she was still working. She was working almost full time. She just was only logging the 20 hours a week or whatever the budget allowed. Robin is doing a lot of work at home, especially on the ZBA things like the minutes, and has to attend meetings. And we've had a lot more complicated ZBA meetings. As Pete Broderick can attest to, they've gone on quite late, and it required a lot of research. So as Lynn had pointed out in a letter that she wrote for the paper, the planning board really needs a full-time person all to itself. The ZBA, which is only 3 hours a week budgeted, increases that by a significant margin. So the biggest advantage of this would be having an administrator in the office, so when people come in, they can get advice, they can file their applications, they can be looked at for completeness, and it allows us to comply with state regulations. And that's what's going to keep the town out of trouble, is being able to quickly respond to applicants and get them on the agenda and be able to have them complete applications. And this is what Robin's done very, very well, but we really can't expect her to work a full-time job at part-time pay. Thank you.
I feel like I'm the only one, sorry.
It's nice to see you.
So, making a new position, is that going to require you guys to come up with job description? Are they going to be lateral, and that the woman who's there now is willing to take on the full, or are you going to end up with new job descriptions, and is more training required, and is it in the ZBA planning budget for her?
This would be a lateral. The person who occupies the permanent part-time position would occupy this full-time position, wants it as a full-time position, and doesn't need additional training, but understands the additional requirements, and it would be obviously the additional needed time.
Anyone else? Any further discussion? Okay, if not, we'll move this forward to the ballot as presented. Article 32, create a new position, part-time building department. To see if the town will vote to create one part-time building department administrative assistant position. Further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $26,869 for salary for 9 months. If approved, this position will become part of the operating budget in ensuing years. Majority vote required. Estimated tax impact is 2 cents per thousand. Recommended by the Select Board 5-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee 6-1. May I have a motion to move the second? Thank you. Any discussion, explanation? Anyone? Yes?
I'll offer an explanation. This folks on there. I'm happy to announce we have somebody in our full-time code enforcement building inspector position currently that so far has all the indications that they're going to do a fantastic job in helping move that division forward. Again, this where you don't have somebody there specifically to answer those questions, it ends up being the jobs answering at the window and dealing with the irate citizens. And I will say this is usually the individual citizen that's probably more frustrated because from their day to either take time off from work to go down there and they don't have somebody at the window that can answer their questions. The building inspectors, they have to be out and about. We have part-time inspectors for most of our stuff, but now we have a full-time building inspector code enforcement, but he's dedicated some time that he'll absolutely be in the office. And then he has to be out physically doing inspections or engaging in enforcement activities. So having another individual there that can take all the requests at the window, make sure paperwork's getting filled out, walk through a or a builder on how to appropriately go through this and coordinate with the other building inspectors, because I can tell you there is nothing more frustrating than two individuals do in limbo, not getting a phone call back, not getting put on the schedule, not knowing when something's going forward. They have their kitchen torn apart and they don't know if they can being able to get somebody on the schedule out there to appropriately handle those needs. So this is a service to the citizens. I know this is adding another salary to the roster and another, yes, it's expensive. And I'll just advocate in general. I have asked numerous people on numerous occasions, and I touch the hot stove of social media and I ask, what are you willing to give up as a town? I know our taxes are going up, but you can tell me what they're willing to give up or that they're demanding less services. Our citizens want what they have and they're only demanding more. But this is one of those items that has come up time and time again, probably on a daily basis. I imagine the town clerk as well as the assessing office can attest to the fact that they have people upset that they can't get the answers they want from the building department because there's not somebody there to speak to. So this position, we would envision it being they could be there during the times, during the middle of the day when the building inspector is scheduled to be out of the office, so that they could be handling some of those administrative tasks and filing and coordination, and that would really augment so that we could ensure that there's always the questions of people when they're at that window and they want to do stuff either with their home or they're a builder or a contractor looking to bring something into the community or provide for other citizens.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions or comments on this article? Oh.
Morning, Dan Doyle, 156 Main Street. All these articles where we're raising money for making these positions full-time, what about the transparency as far as what's it going to cost us in benefits and everything when we bring these people to a full-time position? You have FICA, Social Security, insurance, all that stuff that's we're also going to add into this. How come that's not spelled out into this?
This individual one is part-time, but the full-time we can only say if they took all the highest dental, the family plan, the family health plan, we can tell you what the total potential exposure can be, but we can't tell you what type of plan they end up actually taking because it's a violation of their privacy laws.
Mary Sear, Pillsbury Pasture. I spoke at the public hearing a couple of weeks ago about staffing, and the reason we're in a predicament of having 42% increase in our municipal budget over the last couple of years is driven largely by salary and payroll increases. We've had a number of ad hoc mid-cycle pay increases, $33,000, $35,000 to department heads. We've had requests for salary adjustments. We're doing a wage and salary study. Everybody's trying to, get a piece of the pie, and who can blame them? But to this article, it's creating a new position. It's a part-time position, so we're not obligated to fund the retirement or to provide salaries. I will say that at the public hearing, it was noted that on this article, the amount is requested for a 9-month prorated, because that's when we voted in, and by the time they enacted it, it's only 9 months worth of salary. But annualized, based on 33 hours, it was noted that it was $33,280 per year. And speaking to the prior one, even though we're not talking about that, the annualized salary of the 36,111 was actually noted by our HR finance director as being $52,400, and fully loaded with retirement benefits, all those things, it was 106,215. So those annualized numbers tend to be doubled when it actually hits the budget and then rolls to the following year's default budget. So when you talk about some of the increases we've seen, you know, when you look at the personnel and administration line items, to Mr. Is it Mr. Doyle's question, our retirement line in 2022, our cost was $368,535. 2 years later, it's budgeted for $720,000. Okay, that's from these are largely driven by increases in salary, and that applies to FICA, Social Security, all those things. So when you increase headcount and you increase salaries, it affects all of those personal administration, general expenses. So I need voters to please consider that when you're talking about adding headcount. And it starts out as part-time, but you know, if you give a pig a pancake, in a year or two, it'll wind up being full-time.
Further comment, discussion, questions? If not, if there are no further objections, we'll move this forward to the ballot as presented. On Article 33, has the correct language, but I've been asked to let some people know who picked their packets up ahead of time prior to today that there was an omission that has now been corrected. So I'm going to read the corrected version, but for people who might be home and have a different one, the one I'm reading today is the one that we're going to be asking to see if the town will vote to establish a fire and ambulance services revolving fund 95H. The money received from fees, charges, and other income for fire services shall be allowed to accumulate from year to year and shall not be considered to be part of the general fund unassigned fund balance. This does not include fire inspection fees. The custody of all monies in the fund and shall of the select board designated by the local legislative body with no further legislative body approval. These funds may be expended only for fire department in RSA 31:95H, and no expenditure of other funds that have not been appropriated for that purpose. Recommended by the Select Board 4-0 to 1, and recommended by the Budget Committee 7-0. May I have a motion? Second? Thank you. Oh.
Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself before. I'm Fire Chief Graham Pellerin, for those of you that don't know me. No disrespect, but again, these are my constituents. So it's very similar to the police detail fund. All details when we do a fire watch, when a fire alarm is down in a commercial building, or we do an event on the plains where it would outweigh our current staffing model to put an extra ambulance on, or whatever the detail fund is, or detail money's coming in from outside sources. Right now, we don't have a way to capture that. It kind of goes into the police detail fund, which can only be spent a certain way for police details. So this is really just a way to kind of offset the budget for purchases for whatever the fire department needs. So again, I appreciate your supporting this article. Thank you. Thank you.
Are there any comments? Yes, sir.
Blair Porter, Pillsbury Pasture. I'm trying to understand this a little bit. What happens to these funds currently?
Chief Pellerin.
So currently, the detail fund for the police accumulates all these. So there's the total detail cost per hour to an outside entity is $93 an hour. So $18 goes to an admin fee, and $20 if they call it a cruiser fee if like an ambulance is provided or a town vehicle. That right now goes into the police detail fund. So we're just kind of looking to capture it for the fire department and be able to use it for stuff that we need in the future. Don't run away. No.
So just so I understand, so this is a segregation as opposed to new monies being required or
Yes,
anything?
no money is required for this fund at all.
Okay, so it's just segregating out your piece from the police department?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you should stay. So I'm hearing different people, so I'm clarifying things for them as well. So please don't think I'm totally. I get it. So it's in the police one now, so you can't use it at all.
Correct.
So the police department's benefiting from your services.
Correct. And I ran this by the police chief. He knows all about this.
No. Actually, it's a good thing to separate it. However, I'm curious to, when you said the admin fee, and this is where this could become sticky, does the salary go back to the salary line in the general fund? Because you have to pay somebody to run the ambulance. So where does that salary line go? Do I make sense?
Paul.
There you go. We
So
need
this will work just like the police.
No.
Oh,
Who are you? for the
Paula
record?
Mahoney.
Thank you.
Finance Director. This will work just like the police detail. So the way it works is that an employee is called for a detail. They are charged, they get paid $55 an hour for that detail. Then we charge whoever called the $19 and $20 for the admin fee and the cruiser fee. That detail amount, that $55, stays in that account. And so when the monies come in, it offsets the payroll, and that admin fee is the offset of the taxes.
Okay.
So
basically what goes in there, it's that piece of the pie that isn't.
It doesn't hit
designated.
payroll. So at the end of the year, I keep track of it all year. The end of the year, I take, because it's too hard to break out Social Security and Medicare throughout for each detail, because that goes to one direct account every pay period. I do a journal entry and reduce it from the regular line where everybody else is and put it against that.
And can you, I'm sure it's something that we can ask, what is the balance in the police one right now?
I think it's like 60,000. I don't know. I don't remember the exact 60,000 something.
Okay.
And those lines have traditionally been used. I spoke with former Police Chief Don Briggs earlier. We've actually the boards at that time have purchased cruisers for the fire department, so they've worked collaboratively for there. But I think they would just like it to be cleaner to see the monies that they've raised individually.
That was gonna be next.
So fire cruisers have been purchased with that. If a police cruiser that wasn't budgeted for, because it's terrible when it happens, but sometimes police cruisers get in accidents. So a great example of this is if a vehicle is totaled mid-budget cycle that wasn't accounted for. Well, if insurance gives you $15,000 for that vehicle and a new vehicle costs $43,000 and another $15,000 to outfit it, obviously there's not enough money in the budget, or there's no money budgeted for that, and insurance doesn't cover it, so that it's been used for emergency purchases. Traditionally, like that, there have been some other items that have been purchased, but it's usually for emergent, unplanned purchases that need to be accommodated.
And I'm not picking on you, but is that the fund that your vehicle came out of, or was that a warrant article?
Well, the town command vehicle, not my vehicle.
Okay, we'll clarify that from there. But that's where I was curious, because of, with them combined, how it got separated. So I do think it's cleaner to separate. See, I'm not all bad.
Thank you, Mr.
Do we have any further discussions, comments? If not, if there are no objections, we'll move this forward to the ballot as presented. Article RSA 72:39A for elderly tax exemption from property tax in the town of Kingston based on assessed value for qualified taxpayers to be as follows. For a age up to 75 years, $130,000. For a of age up to 80 years, $185,000. For 80 years of age or older, $225,000. To qualify, the person has been a New Hampshire resident for at least 3 consecutive years, own the real estate individually or jointly, or if the real estate is owned by such spouse, they must have been married to each other for at least 5 consecutive years. In addition, the taxpayer must have a net income of not more than $40,000, or, if married, a combined net income of less than $80,000. Majority vote required, recommended by the Select Board 5-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 7-0. May I have a motion? Second? Thank you. Any comments, questions, explanation?
I will bring this up. It was brought to in the Seacoast region. Our elderly, my comments will also apply to the disability exemption on the next article. Our exemptions were incredibly low for our residents that fall under these categories compared to other communities. But I want to make it very clear that any exemptions that are taken up under this, that cost will be downshifted to the residents of this community and spread throughout us that do not qualify. So we will be subsidizing this, but it's that mentality of just because you retire and you get older in life doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to afford to live in town and stay in this community. So I personally feel that we have an obligation to get more in line, and what we did is the reviewed of the highs and lows of those communities, and we tried to come up with numbers that were right in the middle, so we were at least on par with the, in the middle of these other communities and the elderly and disability exemptions that we offer to the community. And these have not been updated in quite some time, and I get it, this is hit after hit, with the reassessment this year, especially those populations that qualify for this. It's been very burdensome on them with the reevaluation tax increases that occurred, but make no mistake about it, I want it to be very clear that any exemptions that are granted, that cost of money that needs to be appropriated will be downshifted to other taxpayers in the community who do not fall under those exemptions.
Karen Coombs, Little River Road. My only question was just a clarification. Does this require it be their primary residence or any residence they own?
There are very specific rules under the RSAs and the forms that fall under this that does have to be. So it can't be you just own a bunch of investment properties in town that you rent out and you get an exemption on all of those. So it does have to be a primary residence. There are documentations that you have to maximum income requirements, depending on whether or not it's a single or filing jointly. And there are in this, I believe, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe with the elderly exemption, if you hold your property in a trust, it eliminates your ability to participate in this. It has to be filed under the individual. That man correct on that, Tor? Okay, if it's in a revocable, okay, if it's even if you meet the other requirements, the disability one I think is more open. Oh, is that? I'm wrong. What was that?
Are there any further? Anyone? Oh, that's okay. That's what we're here for.
I just realized this. I was reading it again. I just wanted to, I'm not sure it's 100% clear to everybody, maybe it is, that when you're saying $130,000, $185,000, $225,000, that's a reduction in assessed value, correct? Right. And do they have to apply for that, or is that automatically done? So we'll have to apply for that.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted people to make sure they understood it, because it's a little bit the way the wording is. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? No. So if there are no questions, excuse me. Article We're being paused. We all set? Okay. Colon 37B for exemption for the disabled from. Anything going on that I need to know about? Okay. Own the real estate individual. Real estate is owned by. In addition, the taxpayer must have a net income of not more than. What? I'm reading disabled.
Okay.
Right?
Oh.
Oh, yeah, I've done mine differently. Okay. In addition, the taxpayer must have a net income of not more than $40,000, or if married, a majority vote required. Second, thank you. Any comments? I believe Chris has given his explanation. Oh, yes, sir.
Now back again. Sorry, just the definition of disability for this is what? How is that defined so everybody understands what that is?
Yeah, I believe it's going to be Social Security disability,
Okay.
and it's application. There's certain. It's usually a federal standard with Social Security
So
disability.
you're using
needs to
that
be
as the
met.
definition?
Correct.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And I'm not sure if the current exemption has an asset limit on it, or is it income only?
It.
Any other? If not, and there are no objections. 36, shall the town readopt the colon 61-64 inclusively, which tax exemption from the right for intended for use at the immediate site. Such shall be in the amount equal to 100% solar energy system equipment. Majority vote required. Select Board 5-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee 6-0 to 1. May I have a motion? Second? Thank you. I have somebody raising their hands already for comments.
Couple of we have Pete Broderick.
But you never know.
Once you met me, you will not forget me. But anyway, I just a quick clarification. What is the exemption now? That's what I thought. Well, I had solar where I lived, and a lot of you people know that. And in those days, it cost me about $40,000. So you're telling me that these people are going to get a $40,000 exemption every year? Is that correct? Or am I misinterpreting this?
So the reason this came up is when solar systems began being implemented, assessors were assessing them at a flat rate, no matter the cost of the solar system, at $5,000. So so the town adopted a $5,000 exemption essentially to offset. As it's become more popular and more prominent, they've changed their evaluation. So yes, if it is a large system, they're adding the assessed value to your home of essentially the $40,000. So the intention was to not discourage people from going to solar, because they're like, oh, I now have this energy savings, but now my tax bill's gone up more than the energy savings, and they were fearful that it would discourage people from doing that. Now, at the end of the day, my personal opinion, I support this, but it's tough, because if I put in hardwood floors and granite countertops in my house, I'm going to get assessed more in taxes and pay on it, and somebody's home is worth more with a solar system, depending But the goal is to not discourage people from implementing solar systems on their homes because they would lose any cost savings benefit to a tax increase. So this would, whatever it gets assessed at on your assessment card, their taxes they would get a reduction in the assessment of that amount.
No, I get that, all right? It's just that system that I put in my house today would be $50,000. So that means I get $50,000 off my assessment this year.
You'll get off whatever they assess the solar system being on your tax card.
Well, if I sit there and say, here's my bill for 50 grand, I think
No.
they'd be hard pressed.
No, it's not what you paid for it, it's what they assess it at, and they're assessing it at a certain number of dollars, and that's what the assessment's going to be.
But I get that. What you're telling me is you don't know how much it's going to be, how much of an assessment, how much of a benefit I'm going to get out of it.
It's a wash, Peter, because let's say you have 10 panels, and they assess them at $500 a panel, whatever the number is, and that you come up with that number, the exemption will be for that same number.
I understand
so it's a
that,
wash.
but we don't know how much they're going to give us for an exemption per panel. They could give us 1,000 per panel.
But whatever this guarantees that.
I'm just saying I'd be very surprised if every person in this town doesn't say, for that kind of money, I'm putting solar panels everywhere, which is going to really do a job on the tax rate.
It's not going to reduce taxes. It's going to make sure they don't go up from it. It will only reduce it by the amount that you get the increased assessment.
I get it. I'm just concerned that we're really doing something with a lot of information not there. All right, so, I mean, your decision, people are going to vote on it, their business. I just want to clarify it for me, you know. But I would definitely get solar panels.
Whoops. Borowski, King Pine Way. I work in the assessing office. As it stands now with the old systems for solar, $5,000 was added as a feature, and then you get an exemption for $5,000. If you apply for a solar exemption, the assessor is going to go out, see how many panels you have, and assess it at a certain rate per panel. And then the exemption is going to be based on that. But you have to apply for this exemption. Okay, does that explain it? It's a wash. It's going to be a wash no matter what. It's not installation. It's a feature on your property.
And
does that make sense?
It does, and all we're trying to do with this is to catch up to the new way that these systems are being assessed.
Correct.
That's all we're trying to do.
That's new, the way they're assessing it.
And that's exactly the reason for making this update.
Okay.
Ken Isaacs, Riverwood Road. Who establishes the rate per panel? How is it established? And who establishes the rate?
That comes straight from the assessor.
The assessor?
The town assessor, and the town assessor uses some sort of a standard or a guide that all communities are supposed to be following.
Okay, so there is a standard established?
There is.
Not by the assessor, but by some agency? Or a state agency? Thank you.
Yes, we have, it's a state agency. Anyone else have any?
So the current percentage is what?
It's not a percentage. It's 5,000 because the feature number you is still only at 5,000.
Okay.
We're trying to adapt to the change.
Right, but again, I have to say, I agree with you, countertops, granite. You know, I mean, when does it stop?
If I can just last. It's just not adding anything one way or the other. Not just for you, I'm just looking in your direction because you were here last. So, but anyone have any further questions or comments? No? Everyone all set?
Ellen?
Sure?
Ellen?
Oh.
Just for a tax standpoint, if your house is assessed at $200,000, it's going to stay at it's going to stay that same. So it is a wash. So that's I think the point that needs to be made.
Based on further discussion, is there any other questions or comments from anyone? No? Okay. So if there are no objections, we'll move this forward to the ballot as presented. In Article 37, authorize...
The esteemed member of the Select Board in absentia is requesting that you hold your microphone slightly further from your mouth. He's getting
Everyone keeps telling me that, and I keep forgetting. But Chuck, I will remember. Okay. Ask Chuck if this is all right. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Select Board to rent or lease the closed landfill for the study of a solar project for a term of up to 5 years without further vote or ratification of the town pursuant to RSA 41:11-A, Roman numeral 3, recommended by the Select Board 4-0. Can I have a motion? Thank you. Second? Perfect.
So the reason for this article is that we've recently engaged with a company that wants to explore the options of putting a solar field on the old landfill property. Now, we can authorize 1 year at a time without going to the voters on this. So we're asking that you allow us to engage in the contract, because the company that's willing to do this, even the exploratory part, there's no money that we have to invest up front, but they have to invest a tremendous amount of money, and it'll take a couple of years to open that door and that opportunity. So without being able to enter into a multi-year contract where they can do their exploratory information and get the ball rolling to get us in a queue to be a potential candidate for this project, it makes it unavailable to us. It's cost prohibitive for them to engage into something where if all this doesn't get renewed every single year, they would essentially just lose out on money and have no opportunity to propose the project.
This one.
I can wear her out of room. I just want everyone to understand, should the full project go forward, it will come to the voters. Whether or not we want to pursue it as a long-term, decades that it would need to be in place to make it cost-effective for the community to generate any revenue. So I just entirety, it would go to a full town vote to adopt that project.
Anyone have any questions? Oh, yes.
That would have to be negotiated at the time. As of right now, it would be.
It's right now for this initial contract, it's $1,000 a year, just to give the company the privilege of exploring the option.
Yes. They pay us.
Yes.
I'm sorry, if it wasn't clear, the money's coming to us, it's not costing us.
No, I just $1,000 a year for lease.
And it's just because of the exploratory. To see if it was a benefit to the town to even be worth pursuing.
So just a point of clarification, when they're done their initial investigation, will this be going out to bid? Will other companies be able to bid on this project?
No, the public hearings that already occurred on selecting a company in the queue because there's certain provisions with the state of getting in the queue to be eligible to be tied into the grid, that it had to be tied into a company that would be eligible for that.
So was there a bid process open to all bidders for this lease?
I believe the public, there's actually not an RFP process because we're not purchasing anything.
So for all intents and purposes, a yes vote on this is essentially guaranteeing a 30 to 35-year lease with one company that was not put out to bid.
No, it's guaranteeing that we can engage in them with the and before any contract or anything would get built out there, that would have to go before the entire town for a vote.
But a contract with one bidder. Thank you.
Further discussion? Questions from anyone? That's it? Okay. So if there's no objection, we'll move this forward to the ballot as presented. Article 38. Sorry, Chuck. Moved to too close. Shall the town modify Town Ordinance Section 400, Article 404, Hawkers and Peddlers Ordinance, adopted 3/15/78, in accordance with RSA 31:102A, amended August 25th, 1997, amended March, that's a weird number, I think 3/10/2020, to read as follows. No hawker or peddler shall be allowed to do business in the town of Kingston without duly registering with the Kingston Police Department and paying an annual license fee to the town of Kingston in the sum of $100. In addition, no hawker or peddler shall be allowed to conduct business in the town of Kingston other than between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, inclusive unless the Select Board deems hours unreasonable. Any hawker or peddler who violates the provisions of this ordinance shall be fined a sum not to exceed $100 per day for each day of such violation. Any portion of the annual license fee may be waived in the sole discretion of the Select Board for hawkers and peddlers who are domiciled in the town of Kingston. Recommended by the Select Board 4-0. May I have a motion? Second? Thank you. Any comments, questions, explanation?
I believe this was, the body of our ordinance really changes other than it will no longer reference the state RSA, because I believe the state RSA be effective and valid anymore. We just have to remove the reference to the state RSA.
Any additional comment or questions? Yes, sir.
Brad Maxwell, Phoenix Drive. I was just curious if this ordinance would cover political hawkers and why Saturday is excluded. You're basically allowing hawkers to go house to house when nobody's home.
Do I have any comment or?
Well, this had to be brought forward to remove the RSA. I don't think anyone was looking at any other potential deficiencies in it, because let's face it, somebody who can make a tremendous amount of money doing stuff, $100 a day isn't really a serious fine to begin with. So the intent was really just to make it so it was at least legal. But I don't believe anyone looked at the additional content. There seemed to be a focus on numerous other articles.
I believe, though, that we did, at the very least, raise the penalty. I think I am. I am. I think the hours a day, and I believe we modified that, and we amended it to 100.
Yeah, it might have used to been 10.
So are political candidates allowed under this ordinance or not?
I think that would fall under whatever the, if political.
So I think
Anyone else? Any comments, questions? Okay, there are no objections. I just got to Article 39. Okay. Shall the town modify Town Ordinance Section 500, Article 501? Solid Waste Management Planning Committee, adopted 3/12/86 as follows. Article 501, Solid Waste and Recycling Committee. The formation of a Solid Waste and Recycling Committee to fulfill the requirements and responsibilities set forth in RSA 149-M:2 and RSA 149-M:17 was approved in 2021. 501.1. Said committee's responsibilities shall be to A, select committee officials, B, create a guideline to meet the requirements of RSA 149-M:2 and RSA 149-M:17, specifically, and RSA 149-M in general. C, prepare and submit a budget to implement guideline articles. D, the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee is tasked with long-term planning and improvement of the town's waste streams through education, enhanced recycling, waste diversion, and improved community services. The committee works for both economic and environmentally sustainable solutions to the town's disposal needs. E, the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee acts as an advisory committee to the Kingston Select Board. Excuse me. 501 shall consist of 7 members who must be residents of the town of Kingston. Members are to be selected by the following procedure. A, 5 members are to be appointed by the Kingston Select Board. B, 1 member shall be the Kingston Director of Public Works. C, 1 member shall be a representative of the Kingston Select Board. 501 committee system of voting shall be as follows. A, each member shall have 1 equal vote. B, a quorum of at least 4 voting members must be present to vote on any item. C, an item shall be considered passed, adopted, or approved if greater than 50% of the present voting members approve the item. Further, shall the town eliminate Town Ordinance Section 500, Article 502, Solid Waste Implementation District, adopted 3/15/89, Article 503, Regional Disposal Planning Committee, adopted 3/11/87, and Article 504, Regional Refuse Recycling Planning Committee, adopted 3/9/88 as obsolete. Recommended by the Select Board 4-0. Comments, questions, explanation? Oh, thank you very much. I read so much. Motion, second. Perfect. Thank you, Tammy. Again.
I would really hope maybe Stacy Dion would explain this one.
And put on the spot. How lovely for you.
So we have a new solid waste and recycling committee that was established about 2 years ago, and we have put into place kind of a general what the solid waste and recycling committee was doing. The current articles were more drafted towards the landfill and what the people that supported the landfill did and were the part of the process. Now that process has changed, and we went to the select board last summer, and it is an ordinance, so we need to bring it to ballot to reflect what the current practice is in the town.
Thank you. Anyone comments, questions? Nothing. Okay. So if there are no objections, we'll move this forward to the ballot as presented. Yep. Article 40, on petition of 43 registered voters, shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $29,000 to allow the Kingston Department of Public Works to install a 50-foot by 100-foot asphalt multi-purpose recreational area for Kingston residents. The area will be used for ice skating in the winter and pickleball, rollerblading/skating, as well as other possible sports for Kingston residents the remainder of the year. The multi-purpose recreational area would be located in the Richard St. Hilaire Park parallel to Wadley Point Road. This project is supported by the Kingston Recreation Commission and the Kingston Department of Public Works. Estimated tax impact is 2 cents per thousand, majority vote required, not recommended by the Select Board 3-1, and not recommended by the Budget Committee 7-0. May I have a motion? Second? Thank you. Mr. Butler?
I'll try to face this way. Good morning. Paul Butler, Kingston Rec Director, 9 Independence Ave. I wasn't here when this was discussed, and I apologize I wasn't able to make that meeting. My hours were increased a couple of years ago or a year and a half ago with the idea of getting more recreational activities for people in the town of Kingston. Towards that end, one of the things we came up with as an idea would be to get as it says, a multi-use area for ice skating in the winter, pickleball, which is growing tremendously, rollerblading, whatever people want to do in there. It could be used at the camp. It's an area that is not really used at the camp at the moment. I appreciate your support with this.
Questions? Comments? Further explanation? Nope. Yes, sir?
Jason Fellows, Marshall Road. Does this bind the town to put an ice skating rink there now? Because that's not an inexpensive thing to do, plus to maintain it.
I don't know what the correct answer is to that, because I guess the way it's worded to provide it, I don't know if it's only if it's cold enough to support it, or if we have to bring in Freon and coolers to make it happen.
That was not the intention of the warrant article. The intention was to provide an area for recreational purposes, ice skating being one, if we can pull that off. But the intention is not that that would pay for a skating rink.
I believe that the way this is written, that it's to raise an appropriate to install a 50-foot by 100-foot asphalt multi-residence. It then explains what it's used for, but at this point, it doesn't necessarily commit the Board of Selectmen to do anything but do the 50 by 100-foot asphalt area.
It says will be used for. That's not a recommendation. That's not a possibility used for. It will be used for.
I understand that. It's the money and what the money's to be used for. There's no other money being raised and appropriated for other use.
Well, I understand that, but will be used for is stating that's...
It's a good question. I'm not saying it's a good question, but at this point, that would be a selectman's issue, because the only money being raised and appropriated is $29,000.
I'm gonna do some...
Advises that, with a petitioned warrant article, we can do that as well. So even with this petitioned warrant article, if somebody wanted to make a motion to change the language to may, they don't believe that would not change the intent of the article and then would leave it open to the town.
To change the wording from will be used to as may be used for.
Thank you all. So the motion on the floor is to change the language for the area will be used for, et cetera, to the area may be used for. We've had a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Do we have any further discussion or questions? Okay, so if there's no objection,
We also could zero out the 29,000 so that it fails, correct? If we want to make a motion?
No, you cannot make a motion because that would change the intent of the article by zeroing it out, especially.
Okay, so what's the tax insurance, I should say, what's the insurance, the liability of this particular asphalt? And are we just doing a square? I mean, is that what the 29,000 is going to be, a slab? I think that's what he was kind of asking as well.
Mr. Butler, if you'd like to come up. They get cranky with us in the booth.
I've spoken to Primex, which is our insurance company, and there's many details that we would follow to make sure that it's safe, including what goes around it, having an area for people to change their skates. There's a lot of different things, but I believe it comes under the liability insurance that we have. But we would do all the things that Primex suggested.
Yep.
Dan Doyle, 156 Main Street. As a certified playground inspector in the state of New Hampshire here, is this going to be ADA accessible?
Good question. Mr. Butler? Mr. Butler? To that. Anyone else?
Madam Moderator?
Who's wait? Yep. Yes. Thank you.
Just briefly, the other thing you can do is don't lose sight of the fact that it wasn't recommended by the Board of Selectmen and that the Budget Committee voted against it 7-0. So the other thing you could do is vote no in March.
Anyone else? Selectmen and any? You're all good? Oh, yes, by all means.
Donna, I wasn't here when this was debated, and so I don't know why the Select Board and the Budget Committee voted against it. But personally, I support it because it's an opportunity to bring more family-friendly area to the town, especially something that can be used during the winter. We have several playgrounds, but for older kids and families who want the opportunity, it's a great addition to the town. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I'll just speak as an individual board member. I will say as a citizen, I think it's a fantastic idea. But with the budget increases we were looking at, I just couldn't support an additional warrant article such as this that I believe is a want, not a need for the town when we're looking at near 20% budget increase. But as a citizen, I think it's a fantastic idea. But this year, it's something I couldn't support as a board member.
Madam Moderator, there was discussion on the Budget Committee. Everyone voted against it. I said at the time that and there was really nobody advocating for it at that meeting, but if citizens came forward and had raised several $1,000s charitably or in a community effort and was asking for say, $1,000, I would have been hard pressed to say no. But for a segment of the community to come forward with a recreational need and just ask real estate taxpayers to pay for it under the circumstances we're facing with no money. I mean, you could, what the legalities are, but there might be a business or a bank or an insurance interest that would be willing to put up a substantial amount of money of this sum in order for a naming or advertising type thing.
The initial estimate for this project was $43,000, and Director Coombs is willing to have his staff work on this, which brings it down to $29,000. I can take a whole gym full of kids and get them quiet, but I don't want to yell too loud. No, you don't want that. No, trust me. It's not something you want to see. The initial estimate of this was $43,000, and with the help of Director Coombs and his staff, we brought it down to $29,000.
Are there any? Oh, okay.
You brought it down. Is it just the cost, or have you fundraised and gone out to get it? Does your rec commission fundraise to bring money forward for things like this?
We have not done any fundraising, no.
Anything else? Anyone? Okay, so if there are no objections, we'll move this forward to the ballot as amended. We voted on that, didn't we?
All in favor?
Yeah.
Motion carries and then bother to zero it out.
Yeah, so it was all in favor to change it. We did. Okay. Article 41. I will let you know that we have received already one amendment for Article 41, but as we've done with the others, I'll read the article first. On a petition by Don Jean and 42 others, we are submitting this request to see if the town will approve the following actions. Whereas the town of Kingston is comprised of 22 square miles of land with approximately 25% under conservation control, how safe are we? With the summer spent under clouds of smoke from out-of-control Canadian wildfires, not to mention the devastation in Hawaii, we need to develop land management protocols to protect the conservation efforts. While we have strived to increase the amount of land in conservation, there are no plans on file for land management. Yes, we have developed nature and hiking trails, but ignored the standing dead timber and dead underbrush that accumulates on unmanaged land. I propose the following to remedy this situation. Excuse me. 1, a 5-year moratorium on purchasing additional land and asking for additional funds until a plan is developed to manage unsafe fire conditions. A, year 1, develop and propose a plan to eradicate unsafe conditions by working with the appropriate town departments for controlled burns or removal of flammable materials to a safer site for burning. Year 2 to 5, implement and monitor the plan for compliance to agreed upon criteria. Form an oversight committee to ensure compliance with report to the town on a semi-annual basis. Year 6, review to ensure guidelines have been met and continue the plan with adjustments. If plan has not been met, a new 5-year moratorium is automatically reinstated with new leadership. D, recommendation for an unbiased group of Kingston residents, not part of any organization that conducts or has interest in these groups, to ensure compliance and issue report to the town on progress. Since the Conservation Commission has an excess of $400,000 under their management, all funds associated with this plan shall be borne by them and not the town residents through amendments, articles, or requests for special funding. Private donations can be accepted, but all must be used for the completion of the plan and not be delineated for more land purchases. A regular audit and report is to be filed annually with the town that will include budget balance at inception, outlays, future proposed plan, total amount to, says F land, so that needs to be fixed, under conservation, and a final set goal for future land acquisition. G, this plan should also consult other towns as to their position and plans, as it should be beneficial to the region. H, this plan does not and will not include any private property or individuals to be part of these plans. 2, until the Conservation Commission has in place a plan to manage the land under their control for the safety of the town of Kingston and all its residents, I put forth this article. 3, no additional land shall be purchased and no additional funds shall be granted by the town warrant article special request of private donations to purchase land. No plan, no land. Not recommended by the Select Board, 3-0 to 1. I assume you're first. Do we have a motion? Motion. And a second? Okay. As I said, I do have an amendment, but, oh, okay. You put it in?
I'm Don Jean. I'd like to propose amendment to section 1D. I'll pass it to the moderator so she can read it, and then I have a few comments that I want to clarify this. Can't hear me? I want to clarify. I have a few comments that I want to clarify this warrant article. But first, I'll pass on my proposed amendment.
Proposed change to section 1D. Recommendation to form a committee to develop a plan and oversee compliance of such. The committee shall be composed of the following representatives: 1 police department, 1 fire department, 1 public, I'll give you this, Tammy, 1 public works department, 1 selectman, one licensed and accredited forester, one conservation commission, and one resident from the town not associated with any of the groups. Thus, committee will total 7 members. Mr. Jean, because you put in the petition, we'll recognize this.
Thank you. I also want to make a few comments.
Do you want a vote on your motion first?
I'll go ahead.
We have a
Leave it up
motion
to you.
to change section 1D. Do we have a second from anybody? We have a second?
Was it?
It's great. Okay, so you can discuss the amendment. That's the
Okay.
first thing to do.
Okay, the amendment was indicated that they didn't feel, a lot of people's in the session didn't feel that it was unbiased, so I took that to heart and I agreed, and I felt that there should be good representation across all segments that this would affect. And again, I look at this as a public safety reason and nothing else, and I felt all of those have a hand in public safety for the Kingston residents and property.
We have a motion and a second to amend this article on section D. Any discussions, comments, questions?
Yeah, sure.
A discussion on this motion?
Yes, I'd rise to speak. I'm Rick Russman, I'm on the Budget Committee, but I'm speaking as a public citizen, private citizen. I rise speak against the amendment, and I gave the moderator another amendment, which is okay if I read that?
You can read the amendment, but we're going to vote on this
The other one
amendment
first, of course. The amendment that I'm proposing is to see if the town will vote to direct the Conservation Commission to work with the fire chief to identify access points for all town forest properties for use in the event of a forest fire. Plain and simple. So I would
I
urge...
don't want you to speak to the amendment yet.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm urging you to vote against the amendment as proposed. I think the problem is that it's a really, I think, poor solution looking for a problem. We don't have a forest fire problem in New Hampshire, really, and particularly in Kingston. We have about 12,000.
The amendment is for the group being put in this.
Yes, I think that the amendment is inappropriate. It asks people that may or may not have an interest in serving on a committee such as that and the need for that committee, and so I would urge you to vote against the amendment so we could deal with the other amendment next.
That's good.
How's it? Thank you.
That was good. Thank you. Do we have any further questions or comments on the amendment only, which is establishing who would be in the group? If there are none, all in favor of the amendment? Yeah, I'm sorry.
I had one question.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. In the amendment, it mentions a licensed forester. Does this become a financially impacted warrant article then? Do we have to pay for such services?
That's a question. Anyone want to answer that one?
I have an answer to that once we get to the non-amendment portion.
Okay. I believe that will be addressed later. Anything? Anyone? Okay, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? No. Okay, noes have it, that's not amended. Okay. Mr. G, would you now like to speak to the...
Again, this warrant article was proposed not to address the health of New Hampshire, of our forests. We realize we do have a number of healthy forests throughout the state, but this was proposed as a public safety issue. And I want to make a few points that I did not make and could not really put in the articles. Is that, yes, we have a lot of land in Kingston, approximately 21 square miles. I might have been in error in my first calculations, of which 20.38% is under conservation. The Conservation Commission on their website lists 2,739.15 acres under some type of conservation. These properties are controlled by 15, no less than 15 different groups. So that's one thing that the town may not be aware of, the amount and the percentage. I think the percentage mentioned at the last session was a little bit off. That's posted on their website, and as a percentage of the total town property, it's about 20.16%. So it was also stated at the last meeting that forest fires are started by humans. I don't think the residents of the large percentage of forest fires are started by humans. I don't think the people of this town care how the fires start. The fact is, they start. And yes, we can prepare for fire roads and everything that are in there, which is very laudable, and we should have those. But we also should plan for the unavoidable. 2 years ago, we were in a major drought. There was a lot of land out there that you couldn't even breathe heavy by. It would light a fire. I brought this up because of that and the instances we saw last year. This is a public safety issue, not the health of the forest or what the forests are composed of. It's what's lying on the ground in the forest. With all that land out there, the roads are maintained, the trails are maintained, and that's laudable. I applaud the commission for doing that, but it's all the land you can't see. What's there? What can't we see? What risk does that pose? And that's why I brought this forth. So again, a 100-year drought happens every 100 years. Was that 2 years ago? Don't know, but I don't want to take the chance of it catching a fire. So again, I stand by this position that we need to identify what's out there, not what's there right now, but what's out there other than the roads, what's off the roads. And then once we identify it, we need to rectify it, and then we have to plan for it. And that's why I put forth this, and I stand by it as a public safety issue, not for the health of the forest. They are very healthy. But even indigenous people thousands of years ago understood that the health of forest and land management sometimes required fires or cleaning up fire sources. So I stand by that, and I'll answer any other questions.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just to address some issues, I do think Mr. Jean's intentions are pure in this. Just unfortunately, the way a lot of this is written, we have conferred with legal on this, is that a lot of it is legally unenforceable the way it's written. And additionally, some of the demands that it would mandate are not appropriated for, so there's no money to appropriate for these type of things. So at the very most, function to the Conservation Commission. Additionally, I will say during the last hearing, the Conservation Commission did present a lot of information showing that there are fire management plans in place in conjunction with the fire department. But there are legal issues with the way this is written that I think it would be legally unenforceable, and at the very most it could only create a committee that would essentially be advisory in nature to the Conservation Commission and couldn't force some of these mandates that are here in this language.
Chairman, I understand that completely. I'm just a poor liquor salesman. But I really wanted to bring this forth to address what I see as a perceived issue. Whether I wrote it right or wrong, I just wanted to advance the issue to be addressed because I think there is a concern out there by a lot of residents of Kingston.
Thank you. Mr. Russman?
So, yes, I would have moved to amend the article by striking it and in its place inserting what I read, to see if the town will vote to direct the Conservation Commission to work with a fire chief to identify access points for all town forest properties for use in the event of a forest fire. Thank you.
Oh, sure.
Because it's a petition warrant article, we have to be careful how we amend. You're talking a substitute article, so I'm sorry, I apologize for that. It's a substitute article. It's a petition warrant article, cannot be, the intent of the petition warrant article cannot be changed, so that's what they're checking on now.
And?
No. According to our council, this is okay to do. but because there's no appropriation in it, that this is actually advisory to just actually let the Conservation Commission and the fire chief know what the town would like them to do.
Yes, we're asked, when I say direct, I mean, the Conservation Chair is here and happy to address this, but they are already planning, and the Trails Committee is going to work with the fire department, and in fact has done that to some degree. They've been working right along with the director of the DPW in terms of a lot of the access areas. And the fact of it is, our town master plan says that we should have between, I think it's 20 to 30%, 25 to 30% of our land set aside for conservation purposes. We're probably around 22% at this point, so there may be 400 more acres that would actually fill the goal. And these lands are obviously, most of them are open for hunting, fishing, hiking, biking, motorcycling, whatever, ATV, snowmobiles. The fact of the matter is the town maybe has about 1,000 acres that it controls. And some of that is the fairgrounds.
Mr. Russell?
Pardon?
Motion?
Okay, on the amendment. Well, we think that the amendment will, if the concern is forest fires, then the amendment will do that, because the fire chief, we've met with the fire chief a couple times to talk about this. He's okay with the amendment, and certainly is willing to work with the Conservation Commission in terms of identifying, finding out how the fire department can get into these places, and this should service that. So now, okay, sure.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to basically make an amendment which would strike the language of Article 41 and replace it with the words, "To see if the town will vote to direct the Conservation Commission to work with the fire chief to identify access points for all town forest properties for use in the event of a forest fire." The motion has been made and seconded, and we now need a vote. All in favor of amending Article 41 to the new language, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Now, would anyone like to speak to the amendment?
Okay, so we maybe have, so of the 1,000, we have the landfill is actually part of it. The fairgrounds are part of it. Not a lot of trees there, not a lot of a danger of forest fire. The other are owned by private landowners like myself, and I've had probably half a dozen harvests over the past 50 years on 150 acres, and most of us have management plans for our land. The Conservation Commission has management plans and have harvests routinely on town forest to generate funds as well. And then, of course, when I have a private owner has a harvest done, we pay taxes, obviously timber taxes to the town as well. So I think the danger, there really is a very, very minimal danger of forest fires. The Friends of Kingston Open Space have actually made donations to the fire department for service for forestry management and forest fire fighting. So I think, while I understand the concern, I think this will address the concern, and we look forward to working with the fire department to make sure that things are carried out like that.
Further discussion?
Dan Doyle, 156 Main Street. I do have a question about number 3 on this, where it says the town will not be able to purchase any lands? Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Hi, this is not going to work for me. Evie Nathan, Conservation. I'm at 24 Scotland Road. I applaud the amendment. I actually applaud Mr. Jean's concern. We are working with the fire department, and perhaps this got us to be more in conversation with them. I just wish that Mr. Jean and his 42 friends had come to the Conservation Commission, talked to us, and we would have been happy to address his concerns. There are some misinformation in his original warrant. We do have management plans, all of you can feel at ease, written up by a licensed forester for every one of our properties, every one of our town-owned forests. And the Conservation Commission is hands-on managing these forests. A healthy forest is a messy forest, and we've left some flyers back there for you if you have an interest in that. We need dead wood to decompose. Most of our forests are very wet. A lot of times we get to conserve property because it's unbuildable, because it's so wet. So I think you'd find if you went into any of our forests that there's a lot of wetland there. They're all also accessible by Class 6 roads, by skidder trails, in some cases by major roads, by woods roads, and all of them you can get in from various areas if there needs to be attention to any fires. The other just point of interest was that in 2020, which was a major drought year, in all of New Hampshire, 240 acres burned, 5 acres in Rockingham County. And the county forester says that our woods are so wet and damp and mossy that even when they try to do a prescribed burn, they can't get it to light. So I just want to put everybody's fears to rest, that we've got it under control, I hope, God willing, and we will work harder at working with the fire department. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment? Come on.
I'm Cheryl Kime. I live in East Hampstead, but I have 35 acres that goes into
Excuse me.
Kingston.
You need
Pardon?
You have land in
That goes back to surrounded by conservation land.
And can you say where that's located?
Yes, it's in the back of the Woodland Pond development in East Hampstead. It's just, how do I describe it? It comes over to Hunt Road.
That's the address off Hunt Road?
Yes, but I am a landowner taxpayer. But I want to say that forest...
I have one question.
Yes.
You're not a voter of Kingston, is that correct?
Right, but I also have some information to help with this.
Well, I just need the group here to say that they want to allow someone who's not a voter from Kingston to speak to the group.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm protocol deficient.
That's okay.
So.
We have one person who's suggesting she can speak. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Right ahead.
Right, and my land also has the wood roads accessing it. I am not worried about fire, and during that drought that Evelyn was talking about, my forest stayed moist and much cooler, despite the fact that the beaver pond beside me even dried up. So conservation land is what makes Kingston and these towns around here so beautiful and so rich. So to tie up and not buy anymore would be sort of a tragedy. But the fact that there's a worry about the fires, this forest is so different from what burned. And I had an expert write up a wonderful paper. It describes the difference. And if you're really, to make decisions based on inappropriate fear is a shame if you can't learn about it. Anyone that's interested in this paper, and it describes how the western forest is a completely different ecosystem than ours, and it's meant to burn. So to be afraid of fires here, which can be very easily managed, is inappropriate. And anyone that wants to have access to this information, I'd be happy to print up more. And it really would, I hate to see people being afraid of inappropriately. Is that okay? I will.
I've given everyone a little leeway because there had been an article that other people allowed conservation to make some explanations. You're fine.
Okay.
But
anybody interested, I have 2 more left.
anyone else who's to speak should be specific. Article. Do we have anyone? Okay. If not, that was voted and everything. So if there are no further objections, we'll move this forward to the ballot as amended. Article 42, on a petition of 25 registered voters of the town of Kingston to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $2,500, excuse me, to match the 2,500, what? Everything okay?
It's not going over.
Oh. Okay, how about now? Sure. Okay. The town will vote to raise and appropriate $2,500 to match the $2,500 which the Friends of the Kingston Historic Museum Association, Inc. has raised for transcriptionist services and to materials for the proper of the audio and video recording into related materials. The Kingston Historical Museum has some anyone wish to discuss this?
I'm so short. Jeff Flanders, McDougal, Main Street. I'm here as...
Hang on, just one second. Adam, can this be fixed at all, or should we just...
Should I stand on my toes?
No, this is not necessary. Can she just take it? Oh,
Thank
okay,
you.
we're all
Thank
set.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. So I'm just here to speak on... I'm a member of the Friends, and I'm here to speak on behalf of this. We've been doing interviews for a number of years. We're in need of a transcriptionist, but as you can see, there's more than 40 interviews that need to be transcribed. These are interviews that we've done with elderly people, middle-aged people that are the history of Kingston, that we want to keep them, but we need them transcribed so they can be part of our history. Thank you.
Any further comments, questions? Everyone sure? Okay, if no further objections, we'll move this forward to the ballot as presented. Article 43, can everyone hear me? Okay. On a will the town vote to restrict salary, wages, overtime, COLA, FICA, insurances, and retirement, and all other additionally, any remaining not recommended. May I have a motion? Second, thank you. Do we, feel free.
Yes, currently the library is the only department that does return leftover salaries, benefits, monies. Every department's supposed to budget for the highest amount, because you never know if someone leaves and they're a single person, you might hire someone who has a family and needs the family plan. So these monies should be returned to reduce the tax rate, rather than being used for other items that are not, salary or benefit lines.
So I'll speak to this. We have confirmed unenforceable. This is taking away statutory authority that is granted to the select board through state RSA, and there are no provisions with state RSA to restrict or limit that authority to handle prudential affairs of the town. So this contrast of state RSA of authority granted towards your elected officials, and we have confirmed.
I'd like to add to that. I don't want anyone to be under the misconception that this board or any previous boards do not return money to the voters. We certainly do. I've served 4 years as your select board member, and we've given back anywhere between $600,000 to $900,000 in unexpended funds back to the voters, because it's important for us to do that. We're not here just to spend money ad litem infinitely and irresponsibly. That's not our task. Our task is to help fund the goods and services that you as townspeople expect from us. And we want to do it right. Do we make mistakes? Yes, we do. There's no question about that. But there's no ill intent. So to say to give back FICA and Social Security because the library does it, we do it all the time and have done it for years. So please don't misrepresent the money that we give back, because we give back quite a bit.
And this board's mentality has been that about every line item. We've made sure department heads do not take on that mentality of, well, just because you're funded for it, spend it, or else you're not going to get as much next year. We feel that mentality should be presented to every single line item with the budget. Now, have things come up that we've had to use unspent funds in different categories to advocate for and pay for other things that have come up? Absolutely. We had unforeseen increases in the solid waste recycling contract to the tune of about $100,000. Did we absolutely take unspent money from other areas to fund that, to make sure that we fulfilled our contractual obligations? We sure did. But this board has absolutely, all divisions, departments of every department have purview over or are involved with that, do not spend for the sake of spending, or else we'll reduce your line item for next year. Get it if you need it, but if you don't need it. And a lot of departments, to help for some of those shortfalls that occurred over the past 2 years, they really stepped up and things that they could have used, but made sacrifices to make sure that the town as a whole was moving forward correctly.
Any comments, questions?
Madam, I understand what you're intending. Unintended. You can't transfer anywhere else, and it just there. More. And in fact, salaries and wages are what are driving these tax increases. It's just the nature of government. It's over 80% salaries and wages.
Got it. No, the last person touched the button. Figured it out. Mary Sear, Pillsbury Pasture. To the Budget Committee members' point and to the Chair's point, you don't want to create incentive for additional spending. I agree with that. But it also, on the flip side, have you or have you not spent surplus monies on ad hoc, mid-budget cycle sizable salary increases for department heads? So a lot of that money that is slushing around and represents the 3 to 5% surplus does in fact go to sizable pay increases. I just want the voters to know that.
So if voters legal article or legally unenforceable, if the voters or anyone wished, they could change this to be a request to essentially advise the to return these funds. They could make it an advisory article, and then at least it would essentially be the voters, if they approve this, they're voting to take this into consideration and follow these steps, but as it's written, it's unenforceable. But if they wanted to take measures to make it an advisory article for us and future boards to consider that when they're handling their duties.
come on up.
So I would say to amend it, as Chris said, as an advisory and not requiring them.
What would you recommend for the appropriate language?
I would recommend saying, shall the town vote to advise the select board to restrict.
Okay.
The language.
Thank you.
Microphone, please.
On a petition of 26 registered voters of the town of Kingston, shall the town vote to advise the select board to restrict budget line items for salary, wages, overtime, and the rest of the article isn't changed at all. We've had a motion and a second, so all in favor of that amendment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, any abstentions? Okay, not that you abstain, I don't know why I asked that. Okay, so that's the new one. Does anyone have any comments now on the amendment? Sure.
Blair Porter, Pillsbury Pasture again. What is the criteria, like when you say advise, what does that really mean? Like what is what is that?
Still legally unenforceable, but
Yeah.
you now have on record at a town vote that the will of the majority of voters that have showed up and approved this would like them to take this path moving forward. Still legally can't force them to do it.
You can't force it.
But, and then if your elected officials don't take that path, you at least know you have a majority of voters who may want to put somebody else in the next time, I guess.
Is there any visibility when that advice is not taken during your sessions throughout the year? Like how is the voter going to know that you had advice and didn't take it?
We've had over 40 open to the community member meetings that are all open to the public, and that's one of the things. It's very difficult for everyone to take in a year's worth of progress in the town in 1 or 2 meetings at the end of the year. My hope, I got to tell you, this warms my heart to see so many people here today, because we have had some abysmally attended deliberative sessions. To see this many people is fantastic. I would just really encourage people to be involved in. We do important stuff every week. Whether it's expenditures. That's why we're so adamant about bringing our infrastructure up to speed so people can either watch the meetings remotely or watch them after the fact. I asked some people, I said, at the very most, to be involved, at least browse through the official meeting minutes of all the select board meetings that go on. And then you may see something that says, you know what, that's important to me. I want to go back and watch the tape. And I think that would really show people, because we make financial decisions all the time.
Right.
And I think that would really give people a much better pulse of whether or not your elected officials are carrying out their business in a matter that's consistent, that represents you and how you want that to happen.
So in the meeting minutes of the various sessions throughout the year, when these advised ones, warrant articles for instance, have been put forward and approved, is that noted in the minutes that there's an advised article that's associated with this? Again, because it's an awful lot for individuals to track.
Yeah, I don't think we've had a lot of advisory articles come up over the years that I'm aware of, but we wouldn't say, hey, we're making a decision tonight, and by the way, it's against the advice of the voters.
Yeah. Difficult for people to understand and track that. And I understand the legal part of it versus the RSAs. But that's part of the issue with advice articles, right? The visibility on them over time. Yeah, they're nice, but yeah, they're not enforceable. Okay, thank you.
Peter Coffin, Newton Junction Road. I would just like to add a second amendment to change the last sentence to change the word will to should to make it consistent with it being advisory. Right now it says the wages and benefits will be returned to the town hall. It indicates that that's a mandatory action, and I think we've established that that wouldn't be legal. I'll move the motion, the final sentence, the word will should be changed to should.
Madam Moderator, your microphone.
Okay. I know, really. I gave him permission to do that. I don't know what I was thinking. So we have a motion to change will in the last sentence to should. So it'd be additionally, any remaining balances for wages and benefits should be returned to the town at the end of the year. We have a motion and a second, so now we need a vote. All in favor of the additional amendment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. So there were two amendments to that article. Do we have any further comments on?
So the intent of the article is great. It has no legal validity to it at all. It's back to, you can't do anything with this. It's up to the Board of the Selectmen from there. But however, I probably should have asked this in the beginning of the budget, but I was a member of your salary committee. I did resign. I was at 2. I zoomed in, if you can remember correctly, so go from there. And the times got changed to basically the middle of the day, which was unfortunately very inconvenient for me. But some of the issues I had is how that wage and salary committee was going. It was the participants of it. I don't think that it was long enough. You, as you admitted yourself, were rushed because we had to get it going to get it on to the ballot. With any extra money, it also gives you the opportunity to give the raises, the merits. There's speculation about stipends for not using sick time. So that's where some of the money comes from, which the citizens, some, don't want to have happen, is that extra money gets spent without them knowing about it. I would hope that the Salary and Wage Committee really gets going and really looks at it and really adds more citizens, because I don't think the fire department, and just, I always do this to him. I don't know where he is. I'm sorry. I'm just use you as an example. But I don't think they should be evaluating themselves. And I know we looked at different towns and stuff. And I have my notes, I have my research. I wrote you all a general email, and not one response of anybody on to why I really resigned. I got nothing. So I just want the people to understand, the voters, this means nothing. Absolutely nothing. The intent is there so that excess, if that's what you want to call it, can't be spent on anything else, which isn't going to happen. We are a vote the bottom line town, I should say, sorry, and that's where it goes. You vote bottom line, you entrust that the board that you chose keeps the bottom line the way it's supposed to be, and your department heads. The line items, we're not a line item town. So we do spend a lot of time on it, and we hope that you, the board, spends that money according to the line, but you do have the capability. So I hope I stayed in the realm of where we are.
Yeah, my only follow-up to that would be, that's why we really encourage regular participation. Anything that differs from that, those decisions are made in. And it really is, we do enjoy public participation there, and we offer public comment during every select board meeting.
Comments? Anyone? If there are no...
Ellen, are we at the end of the, have you finished that article?
We've finished that article. We've... Moments.
Okay, something new?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to think we all ought to give Chris
Oh,
Beck.
no, we still have one more,
Oh, okay, all right, I want to,
if that's what you're asking.
thanks.
So that should take care of it.
So you have to say that's been moved forward.
Yeah. So again, if there are no objections, we're going to move this forward to the ballot as amended twice. Okay. Article 44, on a petition of 30 registered voters of the town of Kingston. Oh, good heavens. I just didn't have it close enough. On a petition of 30 registered voters of the town of Kingston to direct the town select board to include a list of employees who work for the town in the annual report starting in the 2024 and continue until voted out by the voters. The list should be alphabetical by last name followed by first name. The list should show the following: name, position held, salary for year report, total cost of employee to the town, which is an asterisk, step level, years employed by the town. Total cost shall include the following: all benefits including retirement cost, life, dental, and health insurance premiums. Not recommended by the select. May I have a motion? Motion. Second? Thank you. By all means.
I'd like to amend it to remove the asterisk, the total cost shall include the following. So we'll just end at employed by the town. Yes.
This is removing the asterisk after the word town, and it's removing the last two sentences that explain what the asterisk stood for. All in favor of the amendment, please say, oh, I'm sorry.
Explanation.
Oh.
Please.
Sure.
Yeah, when this was brought up during the warrant article public hearing, it was pointed out that that cannot be included because it's private information if someone has just a single plan, a family plan, so that's not something that we can make public, correct?
Correct.
Now, if you have a comment, it needs to be on the amendment, not on the article. We're going to do the amendment first, so if anyone who has a comment on the amendment, which is removing that line, please feel free to come forward and talk about the amendment. If you want to talk about the article, just wait till we vote on the amendment, and then we can take comment on the article. Does anyone have comments on the amendment?
Madam
Who's speaking?
Just a question, do you want to remove the phrase up in the body, total cost of employee up to the town asterisk, so that it would then read, salary for the year reported, step level, years employed? If the intent
Well, we have an amendment on the floor. It's whether or not we want to go forward with that amendment, or whether the person who made the amendment wants to accept a friendly amendment and do it differently. So we're sticking with the first one and voting on it, and then we'll see if you want to do anything. Okay, so right now, we're removing the asterisk and the description of the asterisk. Did we vote this already? Seems like we have. All in favor? Any opposed? No. Okay, motion carries. Does anyone have any additional amendments? Okay, so we're back to the petitioned article. Feel free to talk to that now.
Dan Doyle, 156 Main Street. Will it be listed anywhere if there's any stipends that are given to these employees, such as cell phone or mileage or anything like that, that's also something that they get within their salary?
I guess I'll speak to that and my comments on it in general. So according to this, I would say no, it all depends. But overall, again, this has another article that has legal implications that are unenforceable. There's a specific state statute about what can be required to be put in a town report, and with the select board choosing to put salaries listed by individual in the town report, because a lot of towns do it. You cannot take a vote to mandate it in. It would be I'm going to use an absurd comparison. If somebody brought an article that we want a picture of all the registered dogs in the town of Kingston to appear in the town report, you can't legally force us to do it because it's not one of the required items that can be mandated to be placed in a town report. If this article was going to continue to go forward, I would recommend it again be an advisory article, that they advise the select board to include a list of salaries included. My personal opinion is if it's paid out as a salary item or a stipend, my personal opinion is I would like that to move forward. I can tell you that this board has already made a decision in this upcoming town report that we will be posting salaries by name and position within the town of Kingston. So this board has already taken the approach to include this in the town report, but you can't legally mandate that the board provide it because it's governed by state RSA of town reports.
So does that include take-home vehicles that these employees get as far as the cost goes on that? That's a benefit to them?
How do you...
But, I mean, it is a benefit of...
What is a dollar amount you...
Well, there is a dollar amount that you can put on it. Being a former federal employee, they did put a dollar amount on that, and you were income taxed on that.
Dan, so are you requesting that all benefits along with the salary be included? Is that what you're saying? So that would include any stipends or car or any other benefits outside of their salary, their negotiated salary?
Yes.
Okay.
But so again, my final comment would be, in order to, as it's written, not legally enforceable, but I wouldn't be requesting the town to provide a list of salaries, and then it would be up to the individual board each year moving forward to decide how much of that information they want to include.
Comments, amendments?
I was just curious, I believe a while ago the school began doing this, posting people's salaries, and don't remember what else, but I'm just wondering if anybody knows how that went or the ramifications of that.
I think the only court that gets involved in it is generally the court of public opinion.
Yes, Peter Broderick.
No, I'm giving her a chance to catch up, that's all. That's all right. Okay? Pete Broderick, 33 Lantern Lane. All right. Is this public information? Can I go down to the town hall and say, how much does the police chief make? So if I want this information, I can get it, would be a firefighter or anything, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I guess the question I have is, before you vote on this, I want you to ask yourself a question. Do I want how much money I make posted in the local newspaper? Just ask yourself, do you want people to know how much money you make? You can get the information because it's free. I know it's tax dollars, I understand that, but you can get it if you want it. So if you have a burning desire to find out how much the local firefighter by name makes, go ahead and ask Tammy. Tammy or the finance officer, and she'll tell you, right? But do you want yours put in the local newspaper? And then vote on it.
Tori Dabrowski, King Pine Way. What if you don't have a step level? What if your area that you work in the town hall hasn't been part of these wage studies and these, classifications? That's information that you're going to be judged based on what step level you're at. I don't even have a step level. So this is information that's not available.
Adam Faulkner, Jericho Drive. Salary, but our hourly employees.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Do you need to answer?
No.
Oh, okay. It is public record. However, sometimes you can't get there. Information can be as powerful or negative as you want it to be. Looking at someone who doesn't have a step, people, they're working on that. If you put they're looking mainly for the bottom line, but if there's something in there, people feel like things are hidden. I, for one, have been one of them. I did go see our finance director, interrupted her day, but she was very nice. She printed out lots of information for me, which I truly appreciate. She was respectful and all of that. But the bottom line is, you're a public employee. Sadly, if that's not information you want, then you don't be a public employee. No, I'm looking at you because we talked about the step thing.
Yeah.
You are, okay. And so it is, you could go into wherever somebody else works and you can ask. Some people will tell, some people will won't. But it does help make a decision when there's extra money, so to speak, in the salary line. If you're on the bottom of the pile and they decide they want to give you a stipend, that can be good. Well, I'm not done. That's how you better talk to them. That is how. It is important. Almost every town does it. For goodness sakes, we could probably, well, depends on who's the White House, never mind. But it's there.
Today.
Right?
Okay.
Anne Marie Roth, Drew Lane. I would like to make a amendment to it to take out the name. I don't think that should be in there.
Second.
What's that?
Excuse me, we can't do this. So your amendment is to remove the word name.
Yep, to have it alphabetical by name.
Okay, and there's been several seconds, so, okay. Now, are you going to speak to the amendment?
Now I'm going to speak to the amendment. Also speak to the name.
Okay. So if you'd like to speak to the amendment being proposed on the floor.
Blair Porter, yeah, I agree too. Let's, if we can, take the name out. I just want to make sure when we're doing position held that it's not an aggregated amount. In other words, if we've got 3 admins, it's not aggregated, right? So when it's listed individually. That was only my comment, yeah.
So you're saying like admin number 1, admin number 2, admin number 3?
Exactly. And I agree too. Let's take the name out.
Listed by individual position.
List by individual position, not an aggregate. Okay, good, thanks.
Mr. Doyle's first, then Ms. Sear.
Dan Doyle, 156 Main Street. I am opposed to that because it is public information. I should know who is getting paid what in that community.
Thank you.
Mary Sear, Pillsbury Pasture. I agree that the name isn't necessary. I like the idea of the position, but I'd also like to denote the department, because you might have 3 admins, and to say that there are 3 of them, it would be good to know that there's 1 in the highway, 1 in the town hall, 1 in whatever. So I think that would be important.
The right button. Further comment on the amendment? Do you have further comment? You look like you want to.
Well, my question is do I have a right to know if I file it personally with the town that their names are released? It's just not published? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Oh, sure.
Could you just reread the amended?
I'm not sure, but I'll give it a shot. On a petition of 30 registered voters of the town of Kingston to direct the, still says to direct. We didn't change that. To direct.
That's not what they haven't amended that yet. Yeah, we haven't amended.
Well, I thought he asked for the whole article, so we'd know, or do you just need the amendment? Yeah, he asked for the whole thing.
Just so we understand. Okay.
Why, are we gonna do something else?
No, I guess you have to read it as what's been officially amended. What's been officially.
Yes, would you like us to vote on the name part first, and then I can read it? Because right now, it's just the name being removed. Okay, we'll go with that. Just to remove the name. All in favor? All opposed? I think the ayes had it. Does anyone challenge? You can? Okay, do you want just a hand vote? Hand vote good for everybody? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand, please. Who's going to count for me? I want to have, Tori, would you count for me? You can say no. Well, would they ask for the? Yes, that would be great. Put your hand back up. I suppose I could vote. You could add me to it. All those saying no, please raise your hand. The ayes have it.
And so I just want to remind everyone, at the end of the day, when this passes, it's still not legally binding. It will still just end up only being advisory in capacity for what the board decides to put in there, or whatever current future boards decide to put in. I just want to make sure people understand that.
Anyone amending anything else on this article?
So are you going to amend the direct to advisory?
I would suggest somebody does.
Okay.
Okay, you're making the motion to change direct to advise?
Yes. Remove to direct and replace with the word advise. I think.
Yeah. Do I have a second? We have a second. Okay, any comments? Peter Broderick. Okay. This is just on the motion to
Okay,
change-
because I have a point of order on the warrant thing
Okay, we'll go
itself.
back to that one.
Thank you.
Right now, we're just voting on the motion of changing to direct to advise. Anyone? Okay, all in favor of that amendment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes. So you would like me to read the whole article again? Do you have, you said you had a point of order. Is it before I read the whole article again, or?
Yes. The 30 registered voters, are they here?
I don't know.
Question would be for the attorney, if they're not here, do their names get pulled and there's not enough?
No, that doesn't change anything.
Sure, their name, they didn't sign for the new motion.
They don't, that's what deliberative session, I'll let you.
Okay, just want to make it, because if I put my name on a petition and you've changed it all, I may pull my name.
Petition warrant articles are like any other article. They can be advised at town meeting.
Okay.
I have a pretty loud voice.
No, that's fine. I get it. It's fine.
Yep, so for the purposes of recording, petition warrant articles are not special. They're like any other warrant article. They can be advised at the deliberative, revised by the town, regardless of who showed up from the original petition. Yep.
Okay, so per request, I will read this one more time. Hopefully, if I miss something, someone let me know. On a petition of 30 registered voters of the town of Kingston, advise the town select board to include a list of employees who work for the town in the annual report starting in the 2024 and continue until voted out by the voters. The list should be alphabetical. Well, how are you going to do that? The list should be alphabetical, first name. But so, yeah, that has to come out now.
The list should be by position.
Well, I need somebody to amend that. Okay.
I'll make an amendment to change.
Who's making it? Thank you. Claudia.
Could I also make an additional amendment that when you say salary, does that exclude waged employees?
Well, that was Adam's question.
I would anticipate that it doesn't, because a salary, I believe, is defined as any compensation that's been received, whether they're hourly or a salary employee. Because a lot of our employees, they may have an annualized salary, but they are still paid hourly.
Every group that we have here, whether it's elections or highway or police or fire, we're going to have it on there by department and by position. And now, maybe name, maybe not name, but what they get paid is what will be on there.
Okay. So we've now changed, the list should be alphabetical. In department? Is that what is? Okay, Claudia, is that what you said? Okay, great. And did anybody second that? We have voices, okay. All right. So we've read the first. Move to, the list should be by position and department. The list should show the following.
That's already been voted to be struck.
No, the asterisk was voted.
No, both of them. There was a second amendment to remove the total cost of the employee to the town asterisk.
Oh, I thought, my mistake, I didn't cross that out. Is step level in years employed by the town still in there? Yes. Okay. Yeah, we'll read this again. On a advise the town select board to include a list of employees who work for the town in the annual report until voted out by voters. The list should be by show the following. Anyone find that wrong? Okay. All of the amendments have been voted. This is the language. Do we have any further discussion from anybody? Comments, questions, anyone? Okay. All in favor of, oh, wait, I'm sorry, I apologize.
So that doesn't include any stipends or mileage or anything like that?
Ultimately, it will include anything the board wants to put forward. If those lines are held separately, the board included as all police that work have a salary and then details. The board could put it all into one payment that they've received to that, or they could break it out and say, here is their normal salary, here is monies that they were paid out via details. So it would be under the board's, ultimately it's going to end up being under the board's purview how they break that out and put it out. But my interpretation would be that any cash stipends would be included and calculated as part of a salary, whether it be for a stipend for holding a certification or something like that. But listen, that's going to be, exactly, the board would have to decide on that. But if somebody receives a $1,500 stipend, the board may say, okay, well, we want to show that that's a stipend and not part of the thing, so they could publish it as additional stipends or additional monies.
And if it's not listed publicly, I still have a right to get it through right to know.
Is the board, I just want to know, looking at vacation, sick time? Are you looking to give that back to the employee?
Why on earth, wait, take away vacation time?
No, I didn't mean vacation, I meant sick. If you didn't use your sick time, are you giving him a separate check for that? Okay, that's a rumor.
Don't believe everything you read on Facebook.
What?
Don't believe everything you read on Facebook.
Okay, any further discussion or questions on this article? Because if there are no objections, we will move this forward to the ballot as amended. Oh, wait. Oh, didn't we do that?
Can you read it one more time?
We're reading it one more time. And actually, we're good. Tammy needs it read one more time. On a petition of 30 registered voters of the town of Kingston, advise the town select board to include a list of employees who work for the town in the annual report, starting in the 2024 and continue until voted out by the voters. Got that? The list should be by position and department. The list should show the following: position held, salary for year reported, step level, years employed by the town. We can go, we all set? We've done all the amendments we need to and voted. Everybody's good on that? Everyone fine? Okay, so if there are no other comments or objections or anything, we're going to move this forward to the ballot as amended. Okay, that's all we have for this. There were a couple other announcements I know people want to make. We want to thank everybody for coming. It was nice that so many people were here today. Candidates Night is going to be on Wednesday, the 21st. I'm not sure the starting time, but it will be posted. I'm sorry, everyone else knows it's 6:30. Yes.
One item, since we weren't right to the budget, do you have to address Article 1?
Oh, I asked you if I had to. I did say there is Article 1.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you had to formally.
Do I need to formally? I didn't think so.
I don't think so. I just wanted to double check.
That's okay. We also have a couple other announcements. I believe Mr. Russman started to make one.
Yeah, I just want to. And has done, I think, a great job, and we owe him a real round of applause for his work.
If there's nothing, oh, yes?
I would like to thank the entire table, all voted officials, elected officials, and volunteers particularly for making this happen today and in previous times as well. So our appreciation goes out to all of you. Nice job.
Thank you all very much. And again, hope to see you all at at Candidates Night and at the election, which is March 20th. So do you, I didn't hear you. Do you have to redo any recommendations? I don't think you do. I think they do. Do you guys have to?
Please let we are not adjourned.
I was like, oh no.
It's like, guys, you need to.
Budget Committee.
The budget did change, so you certainly get to.
We can take it.
And can we revote on the land use administrator?
Yeah, you can re-vote on any of these articles I have appropriation.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, so Budget Committee, we are going to take a couple of votes. The first one is on,
I know.
I need all,
Having a public.
we are still in session for Budget Committee, so if I could have,
Am I supposed to leave? It's still in a public, so. It is? Yeah. We're still in public.
Budget Committee is still in session. Yeah. So we have not closed.
Leaving now.
Okay. All right, so Budget Committee.
Carleen went to the bathroom.
And where is, what article is it? I just want to make sure I'm doing this the right way.
You guys aren't, and no one's paying attention.
No. What's the article number? Where's the budget? Why am I not seeing it?
Our article
27, there it is, operating budget. Okay, so, operating budget, because it has changed, we are going to re-vote on a recommendation.
Wait, we don't have everyone.
Do I have,
Claudia's not here.
who am I missing?
Claudia.
Oh, yeah. Did she go to the bathroom?
She went to the bathroom.
Okay, so we're gonna wait for just a minute for Claudine to come back.
Oh my God. We're being asked.
So Article 27 and 31.
Did anyone email
For what? Which one?
article
31, I'm gonna ask for a revote on it because we were asked to do that. So I'm gonna do Article 27 and 31. Are there any others that we should do?
I'm very uncomfortable if there was no change.
The lawyer just told me that we can, and she encouraged us to.
On the budget.
On both. I asked her specifically about Article 30. There's no change. We were asked to, and I just spoke to the town lawyer, and she said, yes, we can, and she encouraged us to do it. Okay, Claudine is back.
All right.
We're gonna, can I have Budget Committee come closer just because there's so much background noise so that we can all hear?
Oh, no, are we still, Adam, are we still on TV?
We are still broadcasting. Okay, so I'm gonna leave the thing on. So we are gonna, we're gonna vote on two articles. So the first one is Article 27, which is the operating budget. Because there was the change where the active shooter money was put back in. So now just to vote on whether we recommend or not recommend.
So the motion is to recommend.
So I'll make a motion to recommend the budget as presented today. There we go. Motion to recommend. I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
To recommend the budget?
Yes.
So keep your hands up so that we can get a good count. If you recommend the budget.
And, okay.
Nays? Vote no. And then any abstentions? Okay, so we're good on that one. All right, the other one is Article 31, which is to create a full-time land use administrator position. There was no change to this article, but we were asked to revote. I just spoke with the town lawyer, and she agreed that we could revote, and she encouraged us to do the vote. Okay.
What was the previous vote, Trish?
The previous vote was 3-2-2.
Why does that have to be, I understand why the budget had to be voted, why does that have to be?
We were asked to re-vote on it.
Because technically that meeting was a non-meeting. Everything became the select board's budget, select board's warrant articles.
But not the articles that we voted on. Those are still voted.
But your meeting...
The meeting isn't void. The budget
I don't
is
know.
void.
I don't know.
Well, I don't mind re-voting it. It's
Yeah.
fine with me.
I mean, the lawyer just said re-vote.
So
Lawyer
I
has to re-vote, I'll move the pass.
Okay, so we're moving to pass, to recommend.
Yes, I'll move the recommend.
To recommend Article 31, creating a full-time land use administrator. I'll second. All in favor? Aye. And
Five in favor?
nays? And any abstentions?
Why were there?
Because I abstained at asking for additional information which I have not been provided, and I am not comfortable moving forward with that position.
Okay, is there any other business for Budget Committee?
Do we need to accept the minutes?
It was a
5-4-1.
joint meeting with,
Select
so
board.
we
Select
can't,
board,
right?
Right.
So you abstained?
They'll approve it.
It doesn't
Select board
count for
approves it.
anything. I'm just not.
Any other business?
Thank you all, you've been wonderful to work
All
with.
right,
guys have
thank
been great.
you. This is the end of our budget cycle.
Graham. Oh, Graham.